Hello and welcome to RIFC Nation, a fan-created podcast by two native Rhode Islanders talking all things Rhode Island FC. Each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video just to help our channel grow. You can also find this on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen to one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review where applicable, as it helps more people find our podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll note that we got a packed house in here. We got 4 people. That's the highest we've ever had here on RIFC Nation. I'm your host, Matt. I'm joined by my good friend Ryan, and we've also got Luis and Sharon from the State of the Republic podcast here, episode 13 for us to preview our Rhode Island FC matchup versus Sacramento Republic. My dog's going nuts in the background. I apologize for this. I just go home for the start of that, so I didn't get time to let her out quick. But we were on your podcast a few days ago, Sharon and Luis, and Ryan and I just talked about how we just had a great time, and you guys are just awesome people. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us on our end of it. But before we kick it to you guys, Ryan, what's going on, my friend?
No, I'm loving that we're doing a little home and away action here, little on their turf, they're on our turf. So it's great to welcome them. They were such a welcome host to us. So love that.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna dub this the away end, this midweek podcast. This is my favorite of the two. Obviously, we can always talk about matches and match results. We have William in the chat, who I know is a Sac Republic supporter, coming to Rhode Island this weekend. He says hello, everyone. Hello, William. Luis and Sharon, you can probably start with this one. You just told me that, as Ryan and I cracked our RIFC pale ales to get started here, Sac Republic has a beer as well. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Now I'm blanking out. Hey, Will, what is the brewery that, because I know he's listening.
That's what's fun about this being live.
I know, right? Yeah, I blanked out about the brewery, but yeah, no, and it's a full-on encased sleeve. It looks like the Sac Republic brand new redesigned logo that a lot of us are kind of still hesitant about, because we lost some things in the new logo, but whatever. We've got a lot of young people working at the club, but yeah, it's awesome. They always do an IPA, and this, from what people have said, is very drinkable. And that's an important thing when you do beer. When somebody says it's drinkable, it's good.
Yeah, Ryan and I kind of gave a free ad to the Guild, which is our brewery for this one, just about how crisp, refreshing this is, and I guess crushable would be the word I would use, because you can certainly have multiple, as we're going. But Luis, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. Weather's sunny out here in California. Just enjoying the last day before it hits the 80-degree weather. We're gonna have a 91-degree this weekend, so getting ready for that. It's long overdue, but it feels great to finally get a break from the rain, especially when we're out going to games and hoping there's no weather delay. So we'll just have some water breaks, but it should be good.
Speaking of weather, we had a lot of funny conversation in the Defiance, our supporters group Discord last night, about my comments on our last pod about us needing a torrential downpour like it was for Charleston, with wanting that type of weather to play against you guys in your high-powered offense. So I caught a little stick for it, all in good fun, but it was pretty cool. We do have our great friend Nate Ski. You'll hear Nate on the broadcast, so when you're watching this one, when you hear the RIFC chant, it's Nate. So what's up, Nate? Thanks for joining. Nate always reps the pod and comes in and checks it out with us. So great to have him in here. So, Luis, let's start with you. Before we kind of get talking this match and get previewing it, talk to us about the State of the Republic podcast and how that got started, how it got formed, how you guys all met, and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I've been doing it almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years this October, and it started in the pandemic. I was a podcaster. I actually did a few other shows, and still try to do a few, but not as many as I did back then. And soccer's been my passion all my life, so wanted to have a show in which I'd be able to not only talk about soccer, but also talk about my favorite team, Sac Republic, and also talk about all the things going on in the soccer world in California Central Valley, since I was born and raised here, and there's a lot of teams that are south of Sacramento that don't get as much coverage as they should. So that's one of our goals, is to grow the sport throughout the valley. So that's the reason why I got it started with one of my friends that is no longer on the podcast. He had to step away because he moved somewhere rural and connection was pretty bad. So that was that. But shortly after we started, probably like 2 episodes into it, Sharon joined the team. What we had her, especially those first few interviews, were interviews with former players. So she knew some of them, and it was really great hearing that back and forth. And so we welcomed her into our team. And then when my original co-host wasn't able to continue on the podcast regularly, that's when we had Jared join in on the podcast as well, and kind of I wouldn't say take his place, because Michael was pretty special, but I would say that he came by to help contribute to a lot of what is said, and bring Sharon and I a good laugh, like he always does. I know he's watching us right now, but yeah, so that's how us three kind of came together, and we've pretty much been together for like 3 years already, on and off, and we've had a few other guests join in, but we've kept a pretty solid team with us three over the years. So yeah, it's been great.
That's an awesome story. I love hearing how it all comes together. Sharon, anything else you want to add to that on you joining and what you guys have accomplished throughout all this time?
Well, the interesting part is geographically, and we talked about this on our podcast, geographically, we are nowhere near each other. Luis is like an hour and 15 minutes down the road on Highway 99. And for those of you Californians listening to this, you know what 99 is like when you're driving on it. And then Jared was in Phoenix, Arizona. Now he's in Kilgore, or headed to Kilgore, Texas. He's moving with family. And it's really kind of fun to have the perspectives from all around, and to have somebody like Jared that can attend different matches for us and bring us information. Jared's a research geek. Well, we have several of our friends in our chat that are research geeks, and we really rely on them, but Jared loves researching things. He pops things up that nobody was paying attention to. He follows the women's leagues. We do too. He is very diligent about that. So I have to sing his praises. Now, Luis lives in an area where there's like nearby soccer teams, and so it's cool to get his perspective. Now, because I've been in Sacramento since 1974, yeah, that's how old I am. That was college days. I know the flow of the local soccer scene. Well, I used to know it better, but I know that flow, and I worked for Sac Republic, so it made it very easy for me to transition to helping with the podcast, just simply because of just that inside knowledge of working for the team and having played the sport. Anyhow, it's fabulous getting together. They initially called me podcast mom. I am not a mom. I
love it.
Right? So I was called podcast mom for forever, right? And even just yesterday, somebody was like in the stands going, yeah, there's this podcast I listened to. And then he looks at me and he goes, are you? And it's like, yeah. And Luis just sits behind, yeah, that's us. So it's kind of really fun and refreshing. So I have to tell some people, yeah, I'm podcast mom. I have to come back with that old name that Luis and another podcaster called me that in the very beginning. It's really
that is funny, because you didn't mention that at all in our when we recorded with you guys, but in kind of reaching out to you guys on social media and clicking your website, I did read that it is in your bio on your website, so you might want to take that up with Luis, as we get going. But I think Jared is in the chat, because he says hopefully we'll be going to matches in San Antonio, Tulsa, and Memphis given the new home. So we had the pleasure of podcasting with Jared on the State of the Republic podcast the other day. So glad he's at least with us in spirit and we'll pull up his comments as much as we can. But we'll get going on this one and dive into this one, and Ryan will kick us off.
Yeah. So before we get into the match specifically, just wanted to give it to you guys. Like, how is the season going so far? I mean, you're undefeated, leading the Western Conference. You're starting to score goals for fun. So I have an idea of what you're going to say, but yeah, how have you guys taken the beginning of the season?
Luis, you want me to start this off?
Yeah, I'll let you start.
Aside from a couple of ties, which we always like, okay, other teams are like happy with a tie. We are not. And so it's kind of that we expect to win, and our coach expects to score within the first 3 to 10 minutes. He expects goals like right away, because he has set the bar so high with these guys, but they can meet it. The season is going incredibly well. We just beat at the U.S. Open Cup. We just beat the Otters, the Seafoam people, the Monterey Bay. We just beat them last night, and the squad. We have a deep squad, and so the rotation. None of us were expecting the lineup. We were kind of expecting the rotation at you guys, but they didn't do that. They actually held back a few of our regular starters. Guess who you're gonna run into on Saturday? You're gonna have our regular starters, so I would say look out. But season is going so fabulous. We're so deep, and what can you say? We've got probably one of the best. He's coach of the year 2 years ago, and he's just an incredible guy. The guys believe in him. He calls it a mentality, and they have it. It's an unbelievable start to the season, and we don't like the ties. We expect to win every single time.
We're getting a little sick of the ties ourselves over here.
Let me just say, Jared will say that's a Joseph A. Banks or Men's Warehouse situation where you have all the ties.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys are becoming Men's Warehouse because of all the ties, right? Sorry.
I guess if
Thank
you
you,
go,
Jared. Can you please say something about that, Jared?
I guess if you go draws, you can go into like an underwear comment too. So I guess we'll stick with ties for the rating on here.
That was
Luis,
good. Yeah.
Luis, anything you want to add as far as your season so far?
Yeah, so it's been going great. It's been going exactly as we imagined that we had hoped, because last year, being first place overall was a big feat for us. And I think that reflecting back on the last few years, we've been on a upward trend. And Coach Briggs has done a lot for us. He came to us back in 2019, and there was one season that we didn't qualify for playoffs, and that was in our history the only time that we didn't qualify. So it was a bit of a rough time, but after that, it's like we've had really great years. Starting off with 2022 making it to the Open Cup final, last year being first place. So this year it's like you almost feel like that championship has got to happen this year, right? To keep progressing like we have been to. And then as Sharon was saying yesterday, getting the 2-0 win against Monterey, which isn't an easy opponent to play against, even though we were at home. They've always given us a rough time. But yesterday, the team proved that, we can keep moving forward, and that, we've had a really good season, and that we have players that can come off the bench and play as if they're starters as well. And that's what just makes us all feel really good to be able to say that we have a team that is pretty capable of handling any situation in a match. And like yesterday, we even had one of our academy guys, Chibi, defender guy, really solid, even though this is one of his first few games that he's been playing with us. And, coach gave him that confidence to put him in an Open Cup game that wasn't against the team that would be quote unquote easy. Mm-hmm. So, that's just an example of how competitive the players can be. And, we're really hopeful that we can maybe make another run for it in the Open Cup. We got the Earthquakes again coming up here shortly in the next 2 weeks, but back at home for us. But it's going to be an interesting, start to the rest of the season after this. But Open Cup, we're hoping we keep moving forward.
Yeah, so you mentioned, a 2-0 win over Monterey Bay last night in the Open Cup. 1-1 versus Phoenix Rising, 3-1 versus Loudoun, 2-0 versus Orange County, and a 1-all draw versus Tulsa. So 3 wins in the last 5, 2 draws. Not dropping points is definitely key to kind of getting to the top of the table. With getting to the top of the table, I'll ask this to each of you, and I'll start with you, Sharon. Who are 3 key players or 3 players that we should watch for that have kind of driven that run to the top of the table? And we'll see if Luis has anything different.
Okay, this is so hard to pick your favorite children, right? But number 1 is Danny Vitiolo in goal. The man, Golden Glove winner, that kind of guy. That's actually my throwaway. Guess I actually get 3 more because keepers don't count, right? Sorry. Right. So Russell Cicerone, that is a player to watch. If he starts, the dude makes magic happen because he's given free reign to do and be wherever he needs to be on the field. And he is amazing at reading the play, and he's amazing for the players to read because they know He can be anywhere, and they look for him because he's got such confidence on the ball. He's like one of those tech European kind of players. You know, he's going to try anything on you. He's going to try to make you. He's going to do all this stuff, right? He's so flashy, and he's so much fun to watch. The other one, of course, is our, steady Freddy Roro. You gotta just always keep an eye on Ro because he is going to generate so much good play and rarely makes a mistake. He's always in the right place at the right time, and he has a deep tank. Now,
and just for our fans, that's Rodrigo Lopez.
That's Rodrigo Lopez, cool. Exactly. He did play the full 90 last night, and so I don't know what the status of him will be on Saturday night. The other player that, besides Jacker on the wings and those kind of guys, is Nick Ross. We call him Nick Ross the boss, okay? Right? We brought him in 3 years ago, and he has blossomed in the role, sitting in the pocket. He's not a big D-mid, but he's not gonna crunch you, but he's gonna outsmart you every step of the way. And everybody loves Nick Ross. We talked about his player ranks. He's that silent but deadly kind of guy. Sorry, I digress to human body functions.
Are we going back to drawers?
We're going back to drawers. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, and I think everybody will agree with me that is listening who's from the Sac Republic fan base. They know what he brings to the table. Now, he didn't start last night, so he's starting for against you guys. So that's for me, that is like one of my favorite players. Of course, I've also picked him to be the assist leader at for the end of the season, which he hasn't quite leveled up to that for me. I think there are other players that have provided the assists of late. Luis.
Well, Sharon took a few of the ones that I was going to pick.
All right, go for Trevor. Go for Trevor.
Well, that's actually the one I was going to go with first. So Trevor Ammon, he is our leading goal scorer. You guys have probably heard plenty of him. He's got 5 goals and 9 games. And to your guys' maybe bad luck, he actually was on the bench yesterday. Coach put him in for a few minutes. So I feel like there's a good likelihood he's going to start the game. But he's been a really great addition to the team. Literally, I mean, these are his first 9 games with the squad. And it's almost like he's been playing with the team for the last 2 years, or at least last year, because he's already got good understanding with the rest of the squad. So he's one that I definitely keep an eye out for. Of course, I'll repeat some of the ones that Sharon said because they deserve to be repeated as many times as I can. Danny, our goalkeeper, Golden Glove winner last season, Golden Glove winner with Pittsburgh Riverhounds as well. So the guy has a good track record. He was fundamental in our Open Cup run to the final as well. He was the one who ended up actually blocking Graham Susie's penalty kick against Sporting Kansas City, which was a big deal. I was right there at the stadium, and it was like quite the block, despite the fact that he had blocked another one, but then they made the player actually repeat, saying that he had like gone ahead of his line. But I think they were a little too picky in that sense. But that just shows you what kind of goalkeeper the guy is. Of course, Rodrigo Lopez, Sharon mentioned him already. That guy's our legendary player. That guy played basically almost the whole game yesterday, which Sharon and I were a bit shocked to see that. We were thinking coach would maybe sub him out, give him a few minutes of rest. But either way, the guy, even at his age, like he'll play the full 90 minutes. It's in him. Like if it was up to him, he'd probably play 90 plus minutes at Rhode Island as well, even though he just played yesterday. So you like those kind of players that have that great work mentality to say like, hey, I'm going to go out there. I enjoy the sport, and this is what I do for a living. I want to go and play as much as I can. And then as another honorable mention, or maybe because we already have the goalkeeper mention, and that one doesn't count according to Sharon, I would say Kieran Phillips. We just got this guy on loan from our sibling team, Huddersfield Town, and his stats weren't the best. In fact, when he came to us, literally, what was it, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I even just questioned why we had actually gotten him on loan. He's a forward as well. But he very quickly shut me up, which is great because we enjoy being shut up if it means the team winning. And he scored 2 goals in his first USL game. This was like 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, didn't score against Phoenix last week, but in the Open Cup yesterday, he ends up giving us the 2-0 score, which was really great. Eased our nerves for sure. Sean and I were out there feeling nervous, I'm sure, throughout the game until that goal came through. But he's the kind of guy that just, as a guy coming from England, he has the European playing style. And if you give him a second, if you give him the chance to make a run for it, he will actually make a run for it and actually know how to score one-on-one, which makes him really dangerous in the attack. And there's a guy that, again, was a bench player. He started yesterday's cup game, but in the first 2 games that he's been, or I should say the first 3 games, actually started against the OC away. He's been a bench player. Hasn't had that many minutes in USL quite yet. So that's a lot for him. But I think in the game on Saturday, he might be getting a lot more minutes because he got subbed out pretty not too late in the game, somewhere around the 60th minute yesterday. So I feel like coach could potentially start him with Trevor is what I'm thinking, just considering that Russell played pretty much almost all the game as well. So it would make sense to put Kieran, especially coming off from a good scoring streak.
I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen too, but it looks like Jared had Trevor, Kieran, and Danny in his top 3 as well. So you guys were all kind of in the same circle as far as with your top 3 there on who to watch. And also worth it. So you mentioned Kieran coming from Huddersfield, and Jack Gurr is an Aberdeen product, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
All right. So a lot of the European experience there. So yeah. All right. Cool.
But the one thing about Jack that's different than other people is Jonathan Ricketts started in his position last night, and Jonathan Ricketts is 6 foot giant, and Jack is not. So you get 2 different styles of player. So it depends on who's starting in that position, whether it's Jack or Jonathan, as to what you're going to get. Jonathan is a bruiser. He's not afraid of pulling a card or pulling a foul. I think he actually got a yellow. Did he get a yellow last night, Luis? I don't remember.
I think he did, yeah.
And Jack is sly. So Jack will swarm you and you won't even know you got the ball stolen from you when Jack has stolen the ball, because he's sly and fast. So 2 different styles entirely. Right. Am I giving away too much?
No. Hopefully,
the team actually watches the live stream. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, while I wish all of your star players you just mentioned played the full 90 last night, it does sound like we're gonna have some fresh legs. I'm taking that as a sign of respect for RIFC, so I'll take that. But yeah. So moving on to the game this weekend, Matt mentioned earlier, really trying to get into what are maybe some of those keys. To if Sacramento were to win, what do you think is going to play out for that to happen?
So our defense, our 3 center backs, because we've got 3 of them, they will let very little go through. And if something goes through, there's something very wrong. The coach is very key to guiding how the play is structured and how the play evolves from the back line through Nick, or through Roro, or through Luis Felipe, who's also very deadly. He's another silent but deadly kind of player. You guys, he's an amazing player. You never hear him on the field. He hardly ever talks, but everybody knows what he's doing, right? He's going to interrupt play. I will say, if you guys give us, if it looks like we can drive a Mack truck through your defense, we will, because our guys are very good at spotting creases and seams. They're very good at pulling players out of position. It will feel at times very, I would say, pedestrian and boring while we test what your team is going to do through the midfield and through the defense. What we need to work on more is when our opponent has momentum and has broken a play, and we haven't put our numbers back. And if there's numerical superiority against us, that can be a problem, because I know coach is working really hard to make sure all the players get back into swivel head and work as a unit up and back. We've got a couple of players that haven't quite, I should say maybe just one. Okay, maybe 2. So when you see that sort of situation, that breakdown, a broken play and a quick counter, that's something we're good at, but sometimes not always. So those are some things that you guys would capitalize on. But we're very good at picking up holes, seams, creases, scoring channels. Kieran, he doesn't even need a hole in the defense. The dude is super confident on the ball. He's a big boy, right? Mm-hmm. So he's gonna, and he's fast. So he's gonna, I wouldn't think, Aaron Hulling fast, but he can push you off the ball. So if you give him an inch and you're only one man on him, if you're not zoning on him and you're just man marking, forget it. He's done. You're gonna lose every single time. Trevor's super fast and Russell's super crafty. So if any of those guys get the ball, nobody is going to know what's going to happen except our guys, because they've got that DNA thing going on where they know how to read each other pretty well. And our coach expects so much out of our players that they will give it. They will give everything. Yeah, he got mad at Roro, and you never see a coach getting mad at Roro. Roro, in our mind, is like untouchable.
Yep. And
last night, Roro placed a corner kick, not where the coach wanted it. It was like far post, nobody was there kind of thing. It was like unscorable. And coach looked at Roro and he's like, what was that? And, you could tell. It was like, okay, Roro's touchable. He's not untouchable. So, and he's very humble. Roro's humble. Anyhow, that's what I would say keys.
No, and that's great to hear. I mean, not great to hear. It's not good to hear, but it does match up with a lot of the data behind your team. I think you're either one of the top 2 teams, I think, in the amount of passes per game. You're 4th overall in expected goals for, 2nd in expected goals against. So a lot of that, the data, told a very similar story, which is both, I guess, terrifying, but good to hear that, the data is working there. Luis, I don't know if you had anything to add there.
Yeah, with another key, I would say that the wings are really important for us, and we have guys that are like pretty fast, and 2 guys that I think, in all likelihood, they probably will be starting just based on the fact that they actually were on the bench yesterday. That's Jack Gurr, that Sharon keeps praising, because if you guys haven't seen the guy, like, he deserves to be in the Premier League. I know we want to keep him as much as we can, but the guy deserves to be playing at that level already, because he has like great playing ethic too. You'll see him, like, he'll never be like flopping. He'll never be like slowing down. Like, he'll keep on going. Doesn't matter what the scoreline is. And then on the other side, it would be Aldair Sanchez. There's a guy who recently came to us, and he actually came out from an open tryout, because we do open tryouts every year. So this guy is like the dream of any soccer player out there that goes to tryouts, for a professional team and makes it onto the first team, and then starts to get all these like starting opportunities too. And this season, I feel like he's having a breakthrough season. He's been playing a lot better. He recently just got his first goal against Orange County, which is never easy, especially playing at OC, which is always a tough place for us to play at. So I think just between those 2 guys, if your guys' defense isn't ready to handle them and they just keep coming through, those guys can just cross the ball for days and actually put in a lot of work, and your defenders. And so, I would say that's going to be a big key. If they're controlled, then we might have a harder time trying to do something.
Before Ryan gets to the second part of his question, we got Jared in the chat, who also mentions that Republic FC have yet to fall behind an opponent in score this season. The last deficit was versus Phoenix in the Western Conference Final, so that's a pretty impressive feat. And Jim Medin from RIFC, a supporter in our chat, says all lining up for a 2-0 RIFC win. And I know Ryan will touch on that part next.
Hey, we'd love a little competition. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really interesting when you mentioned like the wings. I was looking at some data around expected threats, so like whose passes are creating the most kind of danger, and I was shocked to see that I think it was 2 center backs and both of your fullbacks within the top 5 of your team. So yeah, it's very intriguing to see that you are unfortunately creating threat from all over the pitch.
So Ryan, one last thing. Last night,
yeah, for sure,
it came straight up the gut.
Yeah,
from
the old-fashioned way, as someone would say.
Yeah, straight up the middle of the park, straight up the gut, and it was a string of passes. And with the last pass by Rafa Huarege, who's one of our youngest players, it was like Roro to Russell Cicerone to Rafa Huarege, right to Kieran, and it was just like straight up the middle of the park. That's shocking. you don't always see that in soccer because typically that's the spot that you're being pushed away from. And Monterey, they just didn't pick that up, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't learned.
for
We haven't
us.
figured out that whole middle of the field thing, as you may see tomorrow. But hopefully, practice this week went well. Yeah. So as Matt alluded to, the second part of my question here. So, Sharon, you kind of mentioned this a bit, but what are some ways that you could see Rhode Island FC potentially causing some problems for Sacramento?
Interrupting play, broken play, getting on the ball, creating a quick counter, getting numbers up fast. Anytime numerical superiority, when you have outside wing available, it's like boom, boom, boom. You get that ball, you swing it, and it's like if that is an unmarked situation, and if you've got somebody that can head the ball for a goal scoring opportunity, you could essentially capitalize on numerical superiority. Our guys are usually pretty good at scrambling, like scrambling back. But if you catch us flat-footed and ball watching, that would be the only situation where you could break us down is on a quick counter with numerical superiority. And I'm serious on that because that's the only time we've seen us really get broken down is when that has happened. Quick counter, numerical superiority.
Cool. And Luis, I don't know if you had anything to add there.
Yeah, I would say the same thing too. I mean, we've been in opportunities where thankfully a counterattack against us has not led to any goals or anything, but once in a while that can happen, especially, as we have those wingers that are making those runs a lot. Once in a while, we end up being, short out back. And then if you guys have a player who can make a run for it, that could potentially hurt us. Now, Danny is good at one-on-one. He's managed to stop quite a few. So there is that. It makes us feel a little bit better, but still, you just never know. If you get one-on-one opportunity and they managed to chip the ball, maybe like Kieran Phillips did for us and some of these goals that he scored for us, then that might be all that's needed. So.
All right. I know there are a few collectors in the RIFC Defiance Discord that are trying to get every RIFC scarf out there. But if you're listening to this on podcast, go check out the YouTube and just look at the scarf wall behind Sharon. It is quite impressive. Her pod den is absolutely insane, if you will. She's got scarves from all over.
It's awesome.
Just insane. Awesome. Really, really cool. Really cool memorabilia wall. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, the live shows obviously are always better here live on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to that YouTube. I know Ryan and I have kind of looked at it and we're kind of like laughing because it's usually like and it's gotten more of like a 50-50 split on if people watch on YouTube or listen on the pod. So, we don't mind it. We don't mind putting out the pod version, but the YouTube is always going to have the so a little bit cooler of an edge to it. So if you
don't take it personally that people don't want to see our faces or anything.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, you can put a piece of tape over my square on the screen. It's fine. Just come out and check it out if you listen to pod. If you're always on the pods, just give the YouTube a whirl once in a while and interact with us on the chat. That's the cool part. We will get to the score predictions next, but before we do that, we've had double-digit people in this throughout. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in and kind of stayed with us. And if you could send us your score predictions in the chat and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. See, if you were on the podcast version, you missed my fancy graphic there.
I would say that was really fancy. I didn't know that was coming.
Make sure you come check that out. Always trying something new. So
our graphics department's got a lot of ideas. So
we're trying. We're trying to get a little bit better here and there. We'll start with actually we have Kevin Callahan. So guys, Kevin runs a Twitter space. It's called the Fluffy Quahog Corner. Every Monday night on Twitter. And Kevin's awesome. Kevin gives it to you straight, no chaser. Just kind of how the club's been playing, and he wants to know if you guys can just start your bench players, though. Really would like to see that.
I think it's a good idea.
We love Kevin. Kevin's a smart dude, so I like it. I'm good with it. We've got our good friend. I mentioned Nate earlier when he first chimed in. Nate has 1-1 good defensive game, and I think that would be a win for RIFC. We have Rida 179 calling it a 1-1 draw as well. Jim Ed is calling it, I'm serious, 2-0 to Rhody FC. That would be outstanding. We got the homers in
Not
the
gonna
chat.
happen.
We got the
Not
homers in
gonna
the
happen.
chat. Sharon, we'll
Yeah,
start
we
with
actually
you.
had the chat's geolocated. We didn't allow anyone from Sacramento.
Yeah, we did a little geo block on there. Sharon, very vocal with it not going to happen. And I see a few more people kind of hopping in. So, make sure you get those score predictions. Before I do go to Karen, I'll put the explicit on this episode because Kevin's in here. He says, if we get a draw, I'm running through a fucking wall. Kevin, I will run through the fucking wall with you if we get a draw as well. I did mention
Luis predicted a draw. Luis Urbano
right.
predicted that you guys we're gonna draw 1-1.
Luis, you're welcome back anytime. This is great.
we might charter fly you out here, Luis. Get you in here. That would be serious. But so Luis, actually, I was gonna kick it to Sharon first, but we'll start with you. 1-1 draw. Is that what you're really going with?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, when 1-1 draw, we usually do a little prediction competition on the podcast, and the reasoning behind that is that we just came from a tough Open Cup game. A lot of our main guys started the game. We were a bit shocked to see some of the guys that started, but and I just think just coming off that game and then traveling across the country, it's never an easy thing for them too. I was looking up the weather conditions too for you guys, and I noticed that the field might be a little wet, just considering that apparently there's some rain. Hopefully not during the game.
Every day leading up to Saturday. The temperature keeps dropping by a few degrees for the day, but it looks like it'll be on the drier side. It's just going to be, I think, a little bit more chilly than we'd hope for in May here in Rhode Island.
Okay. Well, I think our players might be traveling here maybe within the next day, I'm assuming. So maybe they won't get hit too much with the heat wave that we'll get over here. And so that way they won't be as impacted in that note. But yeah, I think 1-1 tie, it's a new team. I mean, you guys have just been around for just a few games. So it's one of those things where you can't really compare it too much to like a last year team, the year before. And so I think it's going to be a tie. And I always say this, whenever there is an away game for us, if we just get that tie, even if we don't manage to get the win, that still could put us up at first place if we get all of our points at home. So a tie isn't a bad thing for us, but of course we want to win. So don't be surprised if there's a lot of goals in this game, both sides, I would say, because I think it could be a high scoring game too. All
right. We got in the chat from Jared. You're lucky Texas doesn't do sports betting. If I bet on Rhode Island FC, they'd lose. Just ask about SRFC versus Las Vegas a couple years ago. I'm actually doing okay with
Jared
my.
lost his shorts.
Oh man, I don't do a ton of sports betting, but I did bet the draw on the opening day, so I did okay with that for Rhode Island. And I picked up another. I think I did the Charleston game as well, so I'm 2 for 2 on my draw bets with the Tide. So I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling Saturday morning coming up to that one. And then we've also got Jim Ed who says the tailgate will be huge. It's going to be an awesome tailgate. That's one of the coolest parts about Rhode Island FC, I think, so far, is kind of that community. Tina Carlson is in the chat also saying 1-0 Sacramento Republic. Thank you for joining us on our Rhode Island podcast, Tina. So Sharon's been waving the scarf around. I know it's coming. I just don't know how big it's going to be right now. So Sharon, hit us with your score prediction.
Hey, listen, I'm giving you guys a little edge. I'm giving you guys a 1 goal. You guys get a goal. So I agree there with Luis that you guys actually get to score 1 goal. But we scored 2. And I'm really concerned because we talked about, travel and all that other stuff and tired legs and, how long can you really play Roro and how, really how good is Connor Donovan? I mean, he's training today, soft training, whatever. So I have it 2-1, but I roll my eyes in the general direction of Luis, and I love the man to death, but come on, Luis. I can't believe you said 1-1 draw. I mean, even when we were doing the predictions, it's like, God, man, really?
Well, so, your friend William's also in the chat, who I believe is making the trip, and he says he's got a 2-2 draw. William, if it is 2-2, come see me. I got beverages for you. I will buy you that. Take your hand on that one.
So, William will buy we love William so much. He is the most incredible soccer fan that I have ever met. The dude is doing live streams on his Instagram profile anyhow, and we all get interviewed during it. We love it. he will get all the gear for Rhode Island, and you don't know what gear he's going to show up in, if he's going to have all the Rhode Island gear on, or if he's going to have Sac Republic gear on. So, Will, can you tell us what gear you're going to be wearing at the game? That's more important than the
trying to blend in at the tailgate.
Right,
William,
yeah.
I'll make it also a little easier for you, William. If you follow the Find the Rhode Island Defiant supporters tent, I drive a black Chevy Trailblazer. My son comes to every game with me. We usually have a little tailgate table where we're playing checkers. So look for the dad and the kid playing checkers. Ryan's not going to be there. I'd say look for that shiny head, but he's not going to be there. So look for us. There'll be flags and scarves and all that. And I got stickers for you to bring to these lovely people from. But make sure. No. I'm saying just come see us if you're gonna go live. I'd love to hop on with you. Love to join you. We can have you as well on ours as well. So we'll make it happen and hook you guys up with some RIFC stuff. So
Kevin, I'm sorry, it's Mother's Day. Mother's Day trumps.
Dude,
I'm sorry, man.
He's got stickers from us to give to you, and then to return the favor, we're supposed to get stickers back. And
we'll do that. Do that whole exchange.
He's never going to move home. He's never coming back to California if you treat him that well. Stop.
For what it's worth, he says, "I'm just a tourist." LOL. So I don't think he's gonna let you know what he is wearing. Kevin's also saying, "WTF, Ryan, Bush League."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
my mom lives in New York. It's a trip. I gotta do it.
Yeah.
It was I literally was trying every way to like rearrange it so I could somehow go to the game, but
he also says Mother's Day is Sunday. No rest for the wicked.
He's not wrong.
Kevin's gonna let you hear about this for a couple of weeks. So make sure you buy Kevin same kind of plant you buy your mom. But
so I will say for Sharon was asking me why the tie. I mean, Rhode Island is the team that's not to like mention again, because I'm sure you guys hear it over and over again. But Rhode Island is the team that has the most ties in the entire league, right, with like 5 ties, and only 2 losses and 1 win. So that's what also leads me to believe there might be another tie because they're so used to tying, and we know how that was like right a few years back, like you're referencing earlier with the Men's Warehouse joke that Jared kept mentioning. So we know what that's like, and there could be another one on the way.
I think it is a solid foundation. Obviously, I'd rather have those ties than have losses right now. But I have a funny feeling we're going to get a bit more flack from Kevin in the chat in the next few seconds as Ryan and I give our score predictions. So Ryan, I'll let you
talk about this, but
I'll let you start since Kevin's already on you.
All right, this is good. So I'm not going to be there Saturday, so I can say this without fear of harm. But I have this as a 3-1 loss, unfortunately. I would say I want to caveat this with I think it's very dependent on who Rhode Island FC has healthy. If Chico can play, we saw some pictures of JJ Williams in training. I do not expect him to play at all. If he does, maybe 10 minutes. But Chico being out, I think would further hurt this. I also, Sharon, you made a lot of good points that I saw, like pulling our defense around, I think is something that we will also do. And if you guys can help with that, I am very nervous about that. So very nervous about that. I think Rhode Island FC, if I did see that, I think 21% of your goals have been scored in the first 10 minutes. So if we can hunker down and kind of weather that first storm, I did see you're a little bit more vulnerable in the second half. So 0-0 at halftime, I'll feel much better about us trying to get that win or draw. But unfortunately, I do have some concerns with how good your attack is versus also how great your defense is. So 3-1 Sacramento for me.
All right, before I give my take, we have one more question we'll get to, and I'll go to Luis with this one because he had the draw. So if it is tied up and it's late, Nate asks, who is going to be the super sub that comes on for you guys?
So just given the players that played yesterday in the Open Cup, because this guy wouldn't be a sub typically, I would actually say Russell Cicerone because he played most of the game yesterday, and I have a feeling he's going to be in the bench. Coach is probably going to give him, I want to say maybe like 20, 30 minutes max tomorrow, but he's the guy who, even as a non-starter, he could come in and make a big difference, I think, coming off from the bench, because yesterday, Sharon and I were observing this too, and we even told him after the game, like, the guy just kept running up and down all the game. It seemed like he wasn't tired. It seemed like he was just in the first minute when it was already like close to the end of the match. So I would say he's the one. But if we're just talking just in general, then I'd say Kieran Phillips is the super sub. But again, I think he's going to be starting the match, given the fact that Russell is probably going to be stuck in the bench.
All right, and
Yeah, Russell really
I
stood
might
out. I was
not
watching some
agree.
highlights. He was very, very good.
Yeah, I might not agree. I might say that if Albert
Okay.
starts, the super sub is Dami Viader.
okay.
Yeah.
We do.
I
I don't
Also,
like that you have multiple super subs. This also is
yeah,
concerning.
that's tough.
Exactly.
Our
So
subs
I love
are
Kevin
defense
Callahan.
oriented, so
Yeah, Kevin, you spelled it right. You spelled
look at
Russell
that.
Cicerone right.
So
And,
for those of you
Cicerone
listening,
running-
Kevin put in the chat, I fucking love Russell Cicerone. Wrong spelling in parentheses, but apparently he nailed it. So way to be wrong and be right, Kevin.
yeah, so we came up with a cheer for Russell Cicerone because San Francisco used to be Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. So Cicerone is the same cadence. So
Okay.
we came up with Cicerone, the Sacramento treat.
All
So I hope you get the Sacramento treat on Saturday.
Can't hate that as far as chat creation there. And then Jared said if Ryan is right on the score, he'll be getting a brisket from East Texas. So Ryan, I kind of hope you're right, and I hope you share that with me.
I'll bring up the tailgate. Yeah.
Sweet.
Jared
I'm
will
going.
be good on that. Jared will make good on that.
I am very concerned, like Ryan, just kind of with who's available. We did see JJ Williams return to action via some training shots, but it's looking like Chico was not in any of those pictures. I'm not expecting him to play. So without him, I'm going to go 2-0 in favor of Sacramento. And yeah, if Chico goes, then maybe 2-1. I'll up a goal in there somewhere just because he fights for balls and creates kind of for other people as well. So I was hoping for a monsoon. That's not going to happen. I would have picked a 0-0 draw if that was the case. But, I will go with 2-0, unfortunately, from that. But we do have Jim Ed in the I'll end it with kind of this one here. With our owners' Premier League status, Brett Johnson being involved with Ipswich Town, we'll be buying all of the best Sacramento Republic FC players next season. So that would be great. That would be good to see.
I just saw Kevin's note in the chat about you don't ever predict a loss, even if you believe it. I have been thinking about this for like 4 straight days of do I ever, like, 'cause I was never going to do it. And I was
Sure.
like, do I have to be objective or not? But my
I don't know.
objective opinion is that I'm going to root like all hell for a.
Yeah, obviously, like I root for myself to be wrong and actively be wrong. Ryan, I don't know how long
My
you were-
betting would say I'm going to be wrong. So
Right.
it's good for us that I said that.
I don't know how long you were in the Discord, but I was the first one to pick against Rhode Island FC in the prediction league. And I got good flack for that, and I loved it. But I
unfortunately now have to type mine into the prediction. I've been
yeah, I
waiting for this
usually
episode,
wait
so.
to throw it into the Discord after we do it on here. But
So I'm gonna type that in and then turn my phone off for the night.
yeah, just log out. So before we do sign off, Luis, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share? Tell us where our listeners can follow you guys on socials and where they can get your podcast.
Oh yeah, I mean, first, in regards to predicting a team losing, like I will say, like it's not easy. We've done it in the podcast. In fact, I don't know if Sharon did, but I believe I predicted that we were going to lose against OC when we played against them a few weeks back at OC, and we end up actually winning 2-0. So sometimes that reverse psychology comes into play when you predict. So
I get
it doesn't
that.
work all the time, but sometimes it does. And like I always say, it's nice for them to shut us up, prove us wrong. But yeah, people can follow the podcast.
If you are a Rhode Island FC player listening to this, please prove me wrong. I would love that.
It's exactly what we say all the time. Yeah, with the players, and some of them listen to the podcast too, and we'll get comments from them later on. But we're like, yeah, it's great. Go and score more goals to make my prediction wrong. I don't mind losing our little competition we have going on. But yeah, people can follow Stay of the Republic wherever they listen to podcasts. We're pretty much in most of them out there. We're also on sacsoccerpod.com if anyone just doesn't want to download something and just wants to directly listen to the show on there. And yeah, invite everyone to check it out. We're not only talking Sac Republic, like games and all that, we're also going to be incorporating more interviews. Again, soccer community throughout the Central Valley in California is what we try to cover more. So if people want to get to know more about the soccer scene here in the area and all different teams and interviews and all that, we'll be having those on the podcast, as well as live streams, just like you guys are doing here, because we did those early on, and now we're trying to get back to them and talk more about games, maybe do some preview of games like we used to at one point. So
nice,
yeah,
really
thank
cool.
you for having us on. This has been really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Sharon, what do you got for final thoughts for us?
Oh my God. If it wasn't Mother's Day weekend and if my brother and his wife wasn't in town from Texas, no less, I would so be sitting I would be in your, well, you don't have a studio, but anyhow, I would be on the East Coast. I would so be on the East Coast right now. This would have been a super blast to be at. And I really appreciate you guys having us on. This has been fun. I would love to do it again next year, I guess, right?
No,
Well, even better for
do it.
next year because the stadium will be there, so you actually get to see our real stadium.
Yeah, we can also revisit
wow.
this again when we play the return leg back at your stadium, so we can definitely collaborate
sure,
and get it going again.
Playoffs
Yeah,
maybe
excellent.
too, right? You guys are forgetting that,
Yeah, we'll see.
right? You
With our
never know.
predictions.
You could always
That would be a
make it
big
point.
change in results for us on that one. Ryan, the final thoughts you got for us?
I hope I'm wrong.
Ditto. For Kevin's sake, I hope we're wrong as well, just so Kevin can sleep well. But wanted to take a second to thank everyone who joined us in the on the live stream, watching and in the chat. Really appreciate it. Remember, please take a second, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It just helps our channel get more views. And that'll wrap things up for this one. And also just remember, RIFC Nation is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We try to post daily content on all of those as well. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of those accounts. If you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, make sure you check it out and type in the code RIFC Nation. That's all one word to get a free pack added to your collection. So thanks again for tuning in. It was great joining the State of the Republic podcast on their end, and it was even better having them on our end as well. So hopefully we can make that happen sometime, in the future. We'll look back at the end of the season and get another episode going. So thanks again for tuning in. I've been your host, Matt. We'll see you next time. As always, up the tide.
Up the tide.